Good morning and welcome back to Hope at Dawn, and being the second hour and one day at a time is the segment. And this morning it's all about the church and mental health. And we have our guest already in studio to help us navigate this very important conversation even as we continue with the day's program. And her name is Charity Muturi. We kept mentioning, and now the person is here with us. Good morning, Charity.
Good morning.
You're well?
Yes.
It's good to have you this morning.
Very happy to be here.
All right. How has been the journey? But before that, a brief introduction of yourself. Let me
Okay.
not be rude. Yeah.
Because we've already talked
You know, we spoke off as
Yes.
well. I'm like,
You're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So my name is Charity Muturi. I am a person who lives with a mental health condition. I do advocacy and policy on mental health from the lens of my lived experience. And my father is a reverend. And so I see, very much how mental health and church comes together. Because I believe we are the salt and the light of the world. And so through that position, I also work with religious institutions to see how we can better have mental health prevention and management. Yes.
But first, even before I proceed with the question that I had, I would love to know, we had this, we briefed it before we began the show. How would you describe mental illness in simple terms?
Okay. That is a very good question. Because many people meet with me and they tell me, Charity, you're on mental health. Hata wewe. Hata wewe. Because we sort of interchange mental health and mental illness. And I think even being 5 years plus in the industry, I also didn't know how to just tell someone simply, and you do not know mental health until you describe it in your mother tongue. So, together with our viewers, an easy way to remember this, I'll ask you to make a K, like this with your hands, K, and then C. Okay, higher.
Hey.
So say together with me.
Yeah.
Mental health is knowing your ability, coping with stress, and contributing to your community. And I hope our viewers are joining us. So let's try again. Mental health is knowing your ability, coping with stress, and contributing to your community. Now, when you did this, you remember. Yeah. And then mental illness.
Okay. We will have the lessons later.
He has tried.
Thank you. Thank you, Charity.
Yes. And then mental illness is basically when people do things that we do not understand. And one way to describe things we don't understand is illogical or irrational. So I say mental health. Now mental illness is irrational mood, irrational thought, or irrational behavior. So let's try it. Mental illness is irrational mood, irrational thought, or irrational behavior. Again, mental illness is irrational mood, irrational thought, or irrational behavior. If people do not remember anything, let them remember those two, and to know that mental illness is preventable and treatable.
Yeah. So Charity, I think it's proper we begin with your story and how you came to discover that you had the same.
I always start by saying I've grown up in a very loving family. And a privileged family. Actually, I can't say I was born in poverty. So I had, everything a child should be provided with. And my father was in finance, but was also a national treasurer of church. My mom is a retired nurse and counselor. And so my home environment has been very loving. However, as a child, I tended to have very low self-esteem. I couldn't tell where it was from, but even with other children, I didn't feel like I deserved to be in the room, which got worse as I got into teenage and adolescence. But I would sort of have this conflicting personality, where on one hand I can be very active, I'm singing in church, I'm entertaining people, and then on the other hand, especially at home, I'm very reserved, hidden, and so on. So at 12 years old, I think also because of teenage, the issues of self-esteem really went up, and I started having thoughts of worthlessness, and I couldn't trace where they were coming from.
Yeah.
And then it grew into suicidal thoughts by the time I was 14. But I could not talk about it because now my father is a pastor. And I know these are not things that people discuss. So I thought that when I become an adult, I will hear them being discussed. And so I continued even in high school having, a lot of activity in extracurricular, but sometimes I'm not able to wake up, so it was confusing. And then I used to be the fainter. Yeah, I think every school had a fainter.
Oh, are you the fainter?
He looks like one.
No.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I had many physical illnesses. I was always out of school every 2 weeks, going to different specialists. And they couldn't quite find where the problem was from. And, I'll talk about that a bit later in terms of doctors need to know about mental health and refer, because I was, going through different treatments between 14 to almost 30, 24, almost 30, for at least 10 years. And no one had identified that this is a psychological issue, because it's like when you're stressed, you get a headache. But the headache is not because of a physical breakdown. It is because of something you're going through emotionally. And we call that psychosomatic. Even when you are in highly stressful environments, like refugee camps or IDP camps, we say you have a lot of ugonjwa hapa kule. Today it's here, tomorrow it's here. But it is psychological. And so I continued with high school. I finished. I went into work. Again, I'd have one quarter where I am high performance, and another quarter when I can really go to work, At the end of the year, somehow I would still have high performance, but I had those ups and downs. But I just assumed, when you do things, you get tired, you rest. I thought it's just a rhythm of life. So it wasn't until, so I've talked of this starting at 12, 14, but it wasn't until 35 that I was diagnosed. And I was on one of my ups, downs, but the down was not ending. Like I developed a rhythm. I'll be down for a week and then naanza kupanda juu. Well, this was months. And so I can't remember how, but I ended up in a psychologist's office. And so she was able to explain to me that we all have moods. Yeah, today we're happy, tomorrow we are sad. Sometimes it's very happy, sometimes it's very sad. But there's just that sort of area that we don't cross. Like I'll be happy, say on my wedding day, and the happiness is similar to many other brides. Like you can understand where it's coming from. But now if I am on the wedding day, I am mourning. There's the crying and knowing that you'll miss your family, even if they're your family, you will not be quite at the same level, But then now it is mourning like someone has died. You know what I mean? Like when you see, we did irrational mood, thought, and behavior. So when it is a mood that cannot be rationalized, and this means that if it is a pregnant woman who is moody and you can relate it to the pregnancy, that is rational. You understand? So if it is something that you cannot understand, then it is irrational. So that's when the psychologist said, if you are somewhere here, or maybe just a little lower, we could work on it. But now you're here. And so you will need a doctor who can help you through medical treatment to get to here. And then we do counseling. Because one of the things that happens with mental illness very, very often, and more so in Kenya and in Africa, is late intervention. We are talking about from 12 to 35.
Yeah.
So the same way, cancer or diabetes is harder to treat. I mean, you lose a foot if you've not managed that diabetes, and even when that wound came, you did not manage it. You know what I mean? So the later you treat an illness, the harder it is to treat. It doesn't matter, how good mental health professional you have. And so that means if at 16 I would have been taken to a psychologist, then it would not have gotten to that point. And so I started treatment. That was medication. And then, at least I was with a forward-thinking psychiatrist who explained that, okay, this is to stabilize the chemicals because there's a chemical imbalance. However, there are always root causes to what we are going through. There are emotional causes. There are things you've gone through, whether perceived or real, that then affect you. And so being able to deal with those things, to learn to recognize them, to work on them, is part of treatment. And actually, the more you do psychology, the less dependent you become on medication, because you have dealt with, that now dawa is for the leaves, but the roots, you have to deal with the roots to get to the issue of at hand. And that's why even for you as journalists, it's important to know that balance is required. We may need the psychiatrist, but the psychologist is important as well. The nurse we spend time with in the wards is important as well. The clinical officer who's working in Kilifi or in Mandera is important as well. So we all have a part to play. And no part is greater than another. So yes, so I started treatment. I started going for counseling, and then I wanted to find out, is this thing real? Wajua inaweza kuwa tu ni madaktari wameamua. And so I wanted to meet other people like me and to hear from them. At the time, I was not able to find Kenyan groups, but there were international groups. But it also helped to talk to people in Nigeria, in Philippines, in the UK, and everywhere, and to actually see. Anyway, if it's in all these countries, it's scientific. It's real. And so from there, now I started longing for people with similar problems like myself. And so I started meeting with other people. We started forming support groups. And I joined several. And we have many. Some are disease-focused, bipolar, like my own, schizophrenia, depression, but some are just general on mental health. And we just talk about life. Sometimes people just look at us in terms of symptoms and medicine. And that's one of the issues I was telling you. But I am a person before I am a patient. You understand? I am a person first. Even if I'm taking medication, I want to know, if I go on a date, should I tell this man? Senior. So and for most people, they're always looking at you and telling you, oh, God is faithful. Don't worry, even medication is part of healing. But I have other needs that are beyond what? Medication and treatment. And so in those groups, we talk about access to employment, access to education, what you can do when you're struggling with certain things. Like sometimes, I get families calling me and telling me, tell this person to take medication. I wish they were like you. And I say, should I introduce you to my family? Because they might say the same thing as well. And sometimes it's because this person does not know that the way this medicine is making me feel doesn't mean the medicine is bad. It could be incompatible with me. Even me, it has taken me, I think, 4 years to find the right balance, because different medications react differently. Like the same medication will react differently for different people. And also the side effects will also be different. Like for me, I struggled before 10 a.m. Like now I had to take my medicine so much earlier. And I always tell journalists, a lot of chronic illnesses that we deal with, mornings are not the best. Either because of the illness or the medication itself. But this is still later than most shows. Most shows, breakfast shows or health shows are 6 a.m., 7 a.m. And so I'm not usually at my best. But you see, when I am with other people, then I get to see, even me, I've asked for flexible hours at work. I've said, I'd rather come in at 10, leave at 7. So you're not alone. And you know that it is manageable. And I know that there's no drug that will not have any side effect. But the one that has the least, I can work with. And so I've been on treatment. And one thing I like to say is, I trusted my doctor. And I allow me to take a sip of water?
Yes, sure.
I trusted my doctor fully. I had no reason not to trust her. However, because culturally I knew suicidal thoughts are wrong, suicidal ideation and tendencies are wrong. And also legally, because then I had learned as an adult, if you talk about suicide, you'll be arrested. And so she treated me for 3 years as a doctor that I trusted, but I could not tell her about suicidal tendencies.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So my culture and our legal background then made me not be able to address this. And so that was another 3 years of not dealing with this suicidal ideation from 14, you know. And so that means that I was not getting the right kind of treatment.
Yeah.
And so by the time we were treating it, medication was not working. I went for 6 sessions of electroconvulsive therapy, which is to sort of shock the brain a little bit. And so that has been part of treatment, but it doesn't have to be for everyone. And for me, it helped. I mean, I have people who complain, who have had bad experiences, but for me, it has helped. But I'd like to say that peer support, like just being with people like myself, has really helped. It's usually a very lonely journey as a patient, going through things you don't understand. Sometimes you're thinking 3 years of taking this medicine and I'm not quite, and someone tells you it took me 6 years. It gives you a bit of strength. We celebrate our milestones in a different way. For example, you'll find in most of our groups, people finish degrees within 8 to 12 years if they're not disqualified. So when someone is celebrating a degree 10 years later, the celebration is going to be different.
That's true.
You understand? But to people, they'll be thinking, sasa wengine washapata PhD bado ukiwa they don't understand what it takes, or if it is celebrating, a happy marriage, 25 years anniversary, we come and we dance because we know it has taken a lot more.
Yeah.
And just the milestones of life, motherhood, like we talk about everything. And so what I say is, and that's why I was saying, all of us have an important role to play. There's someone who's not in a support group, but they've heard my story here and they'll be encouraged. That is because of CITAM, and that is because of you as journalists. So mental health is for everyone. It is not for a specialist. Actually, WHO did a study on Kenya and other low middle income countries, and they said the problem with Kenya is not the lack of psychiatrists, it's the lack of community gatekeepers to identify, intervene and refer. Who are community gatekeepers? Our teachers, our religious leaders, our watchmen, anyone who deals with many people. Security, this security guard is dealing with many people. So that has been my work, and after that I've been able to use my experience to influence government decisions as well. And it's been a good journey. My family has been supportive. My friends have been. Actually, my best friend is a member of CITAM. And it has been a good journey of learning. And I think we are wounded to heal. Because it would be impossible to inspire people in this way if it is not for the ones that have been through. And as a reverend's daughter, there are people who ask me, is it that you don't have enough faith? Is it that you don't have enough?
Usually that is what is the biggest question and the dilemma that also you face, especially if you're coming from a reverend's home. So a reverend's child, what have you missed? How?
And there's something that Gigi, one time we were talking about, when you can express what you're going through, you tell someone you're stressed, you're depressed, you're going through loneliness, the first question they would ask is, are you born again? They assume just because you have that, maybe you don't have God. But then I'm reminded of the story of Prophet Elijah. This guy was literally suicidal after conquering the 450 Baal prophets. He goes there and he tells God, I want to die. But we don't see God giving him a lecture. In fact, an angel is there, gives him food and allows him to sleep. And again gives him food, allows him to sleep.
And remember, the angel didn't come and say, Riba Bashanda. This is an angel, but they didn't pray. They practically met he or she. I don't know whether there is he or she, but they met his physical And even psychological need. He was from a big thing and he needed to sleep.
Yes,
you know.
rest.
Yeah,
He was in the wilderness. So
and I like that example, but it also reminds me of Saul. We know about David because he was called to play the harp. Very many examples. And I like 3 John 1:2 that says, "Beloved, I pray that you prosper and be in good health, just as your soul prospers." Because body, soul, and spirit are important. If your soul is not okay, your body will not be okay, your spirit is. And so finding that balance is important, and that is why it is so important for the church to be involved and to know how to. The willingness is there, but sometimes it's just, okay, what am I supposed to do? And I'm not a psychiatrist.
Yeah, and I think when we come back, Charity will be telling us in as far as also the role of the church and what the church ought to be doing in as far as helping with mental wellness is concerned. It's all about hope in the midst of the mental storm. That is in today's segment of One Day at a Time. And we are having Charity Muturi. She's here opening up, giving us her story so that we can sharpen one another and we can be, as we said earlier, we become a brother's keeper. Any question you could be having, you can share with us. Hope at that is Hope at Dawn across all our social media platforms, Hope TV Kenya, and also you can drop us a message on WhatsApp 0708 222 323. We are back after this commercial break.
That way, you have less medications, that's less cost to the patient. There's less side effects for the patient, and also because of the therapeutic effect, they're able to go back to work or to school or be the person that they were before the illness. They have to be aware, both the patient and the family, that this is it's a journey that we're beginning together.
on this episode, we'll be discussing about mental health and specifically depression. We'll be answering a few questions regarding what is depression, what are the signs and the symptoms, how can I know I'm suffering from depression, where do I get help, and much more.
That's on Health Check this Tuesday at 8 p.m. exclusively on Hope TV and also on our YouTube and Facebook pages.
When they look at us, they might say, surely there is a God in heaven.
We come to him, by the way, in our broken state. We don't bring our perfection to him.
Remind them that Jesus says that come to me, all you who are weary and heavily laden.
We are products of our past, but we can learn new things today to change our future.
What is he saying to you? And how are you going to respond?
We are ready to go now and do the work of the Lord while it is still day. Somebody say amen.
Most of the other institutions we have now are just a backup plan to the family. Family always comes first.
Arise each morning to a moment of worship.
Because she has retained her title.
From the terraces to the touchline, we tell it as and when it happens. For all your real-time sports action, from dramas, scores, fixtures, and transfers.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Join me, Mind Gimbokwa, these and every given Monday, only on Hope TV.
Yesu ndiye njia.
Mtoto gani katika hii ulimwengu ameitwa Mungu mkuu? Nasema akasema udhu billahi. Hata leo usisema udhu billahi, tafadhali usikize.
Yesu ndiye njia, uchambuzi wa masuala tata katika Biblia na vitabu vingine vya kidini.
No, we don't believe that Christ was crucified. Christ was taken right to heaven by 4 angels, 4 archangels.
Kama Muhammad ndiye alikuwa wa kwanza kuleta dini ya Kiislamu na alikuja after Jesus, sasa inawezekanaje Ibrahimu awe Muislamu, Musa awe Muislamu?
Yesu ndiye njia, jadala wa moja kwa moja kati ya walimu wa Kikristo na dini zingine.
Wanasema Mwenyezi Mungu ana mtoto. Jambo hilo wanasema limeleta jambo ambalo linachukiza.
Siri ya Mungu ambaye Mungu amejidhihirisha katika mili. Hii yote ni ukafiri.
Mumefanya makosa makubwa sana kusema kwamba Isa ibn Maryam ni Mungu wa pili na Allah ambaye ameumba mbingu na ardhi mkasema ni Mungu wa tatu.
Yesu ndiye njia, Jumamosi kuanzia saa 1:30 jioni kwenye runinga uipendayo ya Hope TV.
All right, we are having an amazing time. Just having this conversation is refreshing in itself. Now, there's this statement called "Hey," which someone taught me, a psychologist, that we once had an interview on Health Check, and H standing for heal, E standing for evolve, and Y standing for heal. And looking at Charity today, Charity Muturi, I feel like you have literally gone through this. Your healing, as you have mentioned, it's a journey. You don't really arrive. It's a continuous journey. But then you have evolved in such a wonderful way, and you're yielding, and that means you're able to help other people who are going through whatever it is you're going through, what you experience, to literally use your scars to heal others. So I would just love to hear now the story of victory, the story of you being able to rise up. You know, how significant was community around you? How are you able to get out of the diagnosis and now to the point whereby you're helping others and even helping big solutions being made even in terms of the government and also the church? Okay. So as I said, my first step was to try and understand what I was going through. And so I read a lot of things, and then I started saying, I'm not a symptom. You know, like I don't want to just be treated as a symptom. Yes. And so getting to engage with families, and I am a patient of Muturi. I have gotten very good treatment there. Muturi is a very good hospital. And I also now started working with others in their treatment, including their families. And sometimes because people see me on TV and they're like, kuja uongee na msichana wangu. Yeah. And so through working with families, I started seeing common challenges. You know, sometimes if you're only with yourself, you'll think you're the one. But now I'd see the challenges of accessing education, employment, health, you know. So I was like, okay, I had a drug that affected my kidney in 3 months, but I have a young man who tweeted reasons. I have had a gyna problem as a result of, you know, because I'm giving this as examples in terms of the things I would see, and I'm like, no, we need to do something about this. So side effects of drugs was one. I wanted to understand, why are there so many side effects? Why do some people seem to go through them and others not? And to realize that when I could access better care, because when I was diagnosed, I had private insurance. I had good quality drugs and they worked very well. But now when it went out, it ran out and I was unemployed, then I was not able to afford. So the alternative medications that I was taking that were cheaper had very adverse side effects and took very, very long to work. So so I started looking at and learning about first generation medicine, second generation medicine. Yeah. I would see how, you know, people are divorced, for example, on the basis of mental illness, or disqualified from a work opportunity, or a government, you know, leadership position because of mental illness. I would see how, you know, people in our support groups
through such humiliating experiences to try and rid them of this evil of either mental illness or suicidal ideation. So watu wamepakwa mafuta ya ng'ombe, sijui damu ya sijui ni kondoo gani, you know, and it's very humiliating. And so I started now doing advocacy. If it is churches, talking to them about these prayers, you know, to say when I have diabetes, do you stop me from taking the insulin as you pray? No. Then why don't we treat and pray in matters mental health? If it is government, what does it take to get this better medication? How can we subsidize it for people? Then I realized, by the way, why are decisions on health being made by doctors alone? I have experience as a patient. I know what it feels to take the medicine or to lack it. I know that, you know, it will take me 500 shillings to take and do it to wherever I am going. To be in the line, I have to come with my bananas and yogurt. So the price of treatment is not just medicine. And that is value that I should add. So I started telling people, nothing for us without us. Nothing for us without us. And by making noise on media, which is a very good opportunity, I was invited to serve in the National Task Force on Mental Health. That was led by Dr. Frank Njenga, president. And so my experiences and the experiences of working with other families for over 5 years, I was able to turn into solutions. And so the first thing I said is there should not be any health committee without a patient. And since then, by the way, the Ministry of Health Division on Mental Health has had, I think, is it 7 or 8 processes, and we've been there. And recently the Nairobi County started working on the mental health action plan, and they said we have to have a patient. So for me, that has been the first call, because if I keep telling you what to do for us, you also have your priorities, isn't it? So why can't we be there to say why what works and what doesn't work? And so some of the things that we came up with is stakeholder engagement. That in Kenya and in Africa, we cannot win the battle of mental health or mental illness without religious leaders. We are a very religious country. And so we said we need to work with our religious leaders. And we actually had as stakeholders with Muslim, Hindu, and Christian religious leaders. And from that engagement, I've been able to speak in many churches, the PCA, ACK, Deliverance, the Wakorino Church, African Holy Ghost Church, many churches. And then I was like, okay, if I only speak to Christians, it is to show that these things are with Christians only. When we are at Mathare, we don't have a Muslim ward. And so I started going to mosques as well. And currently we're working with Hindu Council of Kenya to also find mental health solutions, because this is an illness, and an illness does not discriminate whether it is religion or status or tribe or whatever. We also talked about needing to teach mental health to our children from school, just like the way we learned about HIV. We talked about mental health financing, where Kenya needs to put aside 250 shillings per person in the country towards mental health. For every county to do the same. So like I was telling you, Nairobi County has 40 free psychotherapy services at the community level. We are moving away from institutionalization to community care. So these clinics are places you can walk in as a teenager and say, my girlfriend has annoyed me. You don't go because you have symptoms. Prevention is better than cure. And so we are saying we have psychotherapists who are there to talk about the issues you have on a daily basis. And these are clinics at the very low level. Like a health center, Jericho Health Center, Kariobangi Health Center, and so on. So it has been a good experience. And, you know, even now having Nairobi County, having a person with lived experience, and saying that we are not just beneficiaries. From our experiences, we have value that we have to offer. So after that, I have I am also currently a court petitioner to decriminalize suicide attempt in Kenya. Because you imagine someone has attempted suicide and the first person to come to you is a policeman. You understand? And at the end of the day, when this person goes to the police station or to the prison, their mental health becomes worse. And we have people who complete that suicide in prison or at the police cells. And we are saying that, this is not our law, by the way. We inherited it from the British. And after we got our independence, they decriminalized it in their country. So we've remained with a law. And British countries are the ones who have this law, actually, or other countries colonized by the British. But the reality is the countries that have criminalized versus those that haven't, those who've criminalized it, the rates are higher. See, I've just told you how I couldn't even talk to a doctor. Yeah, if I can't talk to a doctor, I cannot speak to a pastor. Exactly. And kwanza me had been told, if you speak about it, that see attempt, because people also break down it from exactly. And apart from that, I'm also in the Global Advisory Committee, Non-Communicable Disease Alliance, because mental health is a non-communicable disease. If you ask for the Department of Mental Health at WHO or the Ministry of Health, they'll send you to the Department of Non-Communicable Diseases, together with cancer, kidney diseases, sickle cell, hypertension. And that is to tell you that mental health is an illness, and it is a chronic illness, just like these others, and it needs to be treated the same, even by churches. And so now I work with cancer patients, because mental health affects all of us. Actually, some of the highest rates of suicide are by cancer patients or persons with terminal illnesses. And they need support. So imagine you have cancer and then you're being taken to the police because of or HIV or whatever. And so we have been able to look at these issues because my parents also have 7 uncommunicable diseases. And my father, like I said, is a reverend, he's a religious leader. And in 2017, he had a heart attack, which we believe was mostly due to stress. And so this is to say that we need to take care of our leaders. We look at pastors as very, as small gods who can handle anything. But if we do not take care of our pastors, they also get affected. And so it is important for the church to care for the mental health of the whole community, starting with the leaders. Number one, and especially within Pentecostal churches, pastor ndio kila kitu. You know what I mean? And a pastor needs a break. He needs to go and leave. And so that means also delegating so that people are able to take up certain issues. People are able to provide prayer and counseling. The pastor is able to preach this month and to rest another because someone else can, So we need to take care of our leaders. And when I say leaders, also the people serving in the church, even as an usher, being 52 Sundays, smiling at people entering. It's good intention, but why can't there be another usher? You need this month, next month you're on break. Because most Kenyans only have Sunday as the off. So if you're showing up at 7, even earlier than you go to work, it's not healthy. We need to take care of our people. And one of the churches that I really loved speaking at was African Holy Ghost Church. The headquarters, we know them better as Wakorinos. And then they said, no, you won't speak for 15 minutes at the announcements. Tutapika lunch. Watu wakule waketi waulize maswali. And we talked for 4 hours.
Wow.
Yes, and they asked questions and they said yes. By the way, no department will have 1 person. We'll have a minimum of 2. And even if you're not tired, you will go for a break. You understand? Understanding that we are here for spiritual nourishment, but sometimes we overdo. So we need to rest. We need to allow people to rest. We need to encourage rest. Nisikae kama wewe si Mkristo tosha kama hauja serve 24 hours 65 days a year.
That's true.
And also now practically having mental health services. So prevention means music is good. We said even as a task force that music is very good because you are able to have hope, have joy. Have the right, emotions. We have a God who will give what we cannot control, which is what affects us the most. But then let's also be our brother's keeper. For me to be able to deal with the daily stresses of life, I don't need a psychologist. I just need a friend or my cell group partner. And people always laugh when I tell them this mambo ya 10-kilometer testimonies. mmekuja tu kupeana testimony. So everyone is competing who has a longer testimony than the other. Is not at the expense of how people are doing. You know, someone has lost their job. You know, someone has, you know, a brother with cancer. Let's provide welfare. At that basic level of the cell group and the family. So that if it goes beyond that, now we can talk to leaders. And this leadership doesn't have to be the pastor. Let's build strong leaders so that different people can support. And then also now referral, which is very important. Like I said, our problem in Kenya is identification, intervention, and referral. Sometimes you identify, but you don't intervene. There's a
you see,
I'm on a point now. You know, intervening means you do something about it. And sometimes people don't know how to. So WHO have created a very simple nini for you to remember. Look, listen, link. Today I'll make you do action so that, because I know you are interviewing many people, and I want you to remember this one.
I will definitely remember this one.
So say look.
Look.
Okay. So you look for ways to prevent and manage mental illness. Encouraging music, encouraging dancing, encouraging our youth to show their talents so that people are able to physically, you know, get rid of stress and so on. Prevention is also, yes, providing a spiritual support, but not overdoing it. Prevention is also giving welfare. So that person has lost a job, do the practical things that will support this person for 6 months to be able to sustain themselves, but also to be able to get another opportunity. And management. So you look for ways to prevent and manage mental illness. And management also means early intervention. So you've seen there's something, you're not even too sure where to go. You can call Red Cross on 1199 and ask, this is what I'm seeing. That's a counseling hotline. What should I do? Because a counseling hotline is not only for the person who is struggling, even the people around. Or like here at CITAM, where we have a psychology department, you know, that is a very good resource for the church. And people can call and say, I am a pastor. There's something I'm seeing with my congregant. Help me. Because it's not all churches who will have this resource. And sometimes we can benefit from each other. And so I have also worked with religious leaders, you know, to identify, to be able to identify, intervene, and refer. So there's look, and then there's listen. Say listen.
Listen.
So the listen is about how, because some is hearing, some is listening. Listening is proactive. And we say mostly listening without judgment. You know, Kenyans, we are very good even with eye communication alone. And so being able to listen without judgment starts with your character. Because someone will not talk to you in the first place if they cannot trust you. So we have to develop a system and have a culture of covering each other's nakedness, so that I have the confidence to come to you and know that you will not treat me as less and you will not shame me. So listen without judgment. And I think the church has been one of the most judgmental places. Yet we
have to be
we worship a God who does not judge us harshly. You know what I mean? But we judge a lot more. So we need to learn to listen without judgment. Because until a woman is able to say, this, I know my pastor is the choir master, but he beats me. How will a woman be able to say that if she does not know that there's a certain person that they can talk to? So it is listening without judgment. Also because you need evidence, or let me say, in order to intervene, you need to find out what is wrong. So if I come and say, I saw a white bird yesterday, when you start, but where? Then that story ends there. But if you ask what kind of a bird, was it during the day? Was it during a day? You're getting information to be able to help this person, isn't it? And the last one is link. Say link. Link. So who do you link to? You link to CITAM Psychology Services. I think if you have a helpline, you can share. You link to Nairobi County Services. You link to private, you know, practitioners that we have. You link to whoever you feel can be able to support. So that you don't leave it at the place of no intervention. So we need to practically help. Government is doing a lot to help us, but we need counties. We may have many counties who do not have mental health services.
Yeah.
And we cannot have people coming from Northeastern to come to Madani. No. We need, just the way we have in Nairobi, to other
across
counties.
Yeah.
And even for, like we are discussing with NCCK and IRCK, to be able to empower pastors and even to know where to refer, and even to have a referral system for the church. You know, that complements whatever it is that government is doing. So it has been a good journey of being able to walk into spaces, and even when someone is able to see that a person with mental illness is speaking at WHO, that I have spoken at African Union, that I have spoken at the UN General Assembly, where will stigma come from?
True.
You understand? So even giving us positions, and so that means even at you know, in the Mother's Guild, when you know I have bipolar and you make me the secretary and I have to announce, people will not stigmatize me. So people look at this stigma like it is a very complicated thing. No, it just means treat me as you want to be treated.
That's
and
true.
the best way to remember that is to know today it is me, tomorrow it is you. When you know that tomorrow you could have an issue, then you will not treat me differently, isn't it? So we need to learn to take care of our mental health. I know you've talked a lot about that. The need for sleeping, the need for resting, the need for balanced diet, the need to share in our cell groups and wherever else. But also too, that I need to take care of my mental health. I need to be my brother's keeper. I need to take responsibility. I need to take ownership that if my brother is hurting, I am hurting. And lastly, to link, because no matter how much I love my father, I cannot treat his heart condition.
That's true.
There's someone who has learned how to do it. So in the same way, even when I have mental illness, he takes me to the psychiatrist because he cannot treat me.
That's true. This has been so wholesome. Yes, so good, so amazing. And I see time is far much spent, but maybe you can encourage someone who is watching today and they feel like they're just on the deep end. Mental illness has really brought them down and they almost don't even see the hope forward. Maybe you can just speak to them, whatever is your heart, and just encourage them to know that they can get to the other side.
Jesus had walked with his disciples for a long time. And one day, so they had walked with him, they had seen him heal. They had seen him break the shackles of demonic forces. They had seen him heal leprosy, which seemed to be impossible. But after seeing all that, the disciples saw a blind man and they asked him, is this man blind because of the sins of his parents? Is there something wrong that his parents did? And Jesus responded that no, he is like that for the glory of God to be seen. It is not a miracle when it has not come from a tough place. And so the glory of God can be seen, whether his answer is yes, no, or wait. You will see other people whose conditions will live, but you will find Paul who still had that thorn. But God provides the grace for what it is that we go through. And I encourage you to turn your challenge to a victory by using it for the glory of God. The same God who has allowed it to happen and has a reason will provide grace. Talk to someone. Walk into the county facilities. Walk to CITAM. Speak to someone. Sometimes I say all you need is a stranger to be able to speak. But also take responsibility to take care of your mental health. Be your brother's keeper. Keeper is not a convenient thing to do. That means whatever it is my friend is going through, I will consider as my own. And lastly, as we have said, mental health is knowing your ability, coping with stress, contributing to your community. Mental illness is irrational mood, irrational thought, irrational behavior, but it is preventable and treatable. So I'll ask my audience to say with me, I will take care of my mental health.
I will take care of my mental health.
I will be my brother's keeper.
I will be my brother's keeper.
I will look.
I will look.
I will listen.
I will listen.
And I will link.
And I will link.
God bless you.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you
That
so
was
much,
good.
Charity, for the wisdom, and the way you speak with a lot of commitment, energy, and may God bless you. That's all we can pray for you. That even as you continue with this campaign, the advocacy that you are taking part in, that God will guide you, He will revive you, He will do great things in you and also through you. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am so blessed. This has been wholesome, such a
wholesome.
Beautiful conversation. And I think my biggest takeaway is just to be my brother's keeper. Listening is something huge. Some people just need you to listen, not condemning, not judging, just listening to them. Because if someone tells you they're hurting, it is not in your power to tell them that they're not. So we just have to be our brother's keeper at the end of the day. Thank you so much for coming through. May God bless you. We hope to have you here again.
We have religious leaders also who can come and speak as well.
That's true.
And I see Jafar Oching saying, loving the conversation. Charity is a dedicated activist. It's a very big discussion, and we agree it's a very big discussion. And that's why we had it right here this morning on One Day at a Time at Hope at Dawn. It's all about, taking care of our mental health and just overcoming and having hope in the midst of the mental storm. Thank you so very much. God willing, we'll be doing this again, same time, same place tomorrow. And someone is very jolly on my right because tomorrow she says she will be clad in red. So
tomorrow amesema ati anavaa jezi ya Manu. Gigi.
Senior red. See two color.
I support.
Thank you. Thank you, Charity.
You see, alafu mnaenda out, alafu wewe umevaa tu jezi, dema medunga.
Kuna heel nini.
Alafu wewe unakuja na jezi na
inaitangwa preference.
Anyway, we can continue just to get time imeenda kuenda. But thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you tomorrow. And remember, you can be part and partner of what we do right here by contributing whatever amount that you have to FOH, Friends of Hope. You are our supporters. You're the people that help us to get on air each and every single day. So you can send in your contribution of any amount to the paybill number 933933, account FOH TV. Na Mungu atazidi kuwabariki. Thank you for supporting us and for enabling us to be here. We've come to the end of the show. We'll see you tomorrow. My name is Beatrice Watare.
And my name is George Gishuru. Have a fruitful, blessed day.